Hi guys, it's Aoife from Fred We Died Laughing, and I'm here with my second March weekly wrap up. So I managed to read 3 books this week and a few novellas, and I'm really happy with everything that I read. The first book I read this week was something I mentioned at the end of last week, and that was Equal Rites by Terry Pratchett. This is the 3rd book in the Discworld series, and I think it's the first book in the Witches series within the Discworld series, and it was actually really good. I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I have enjoyed the other Discworld novels so far in the series. This is about it basically starts off with a wizard going to this village where the 7th son of a 7th son is about to be born, and the wizard passes on his power to this baby the moment it's born, and then he dies. But then it turns out that the baby is not a son but a daughter. So it turns out that this baby girl has been born and been given these wizard powers, and it's kind of like against the natural order that a woman can be a wizard. She can only be a witch, she can't be a wizard, and there's all this kind of craziness goes on, and then the little girl grows up and all these weird things start to happen, and then the witch of the village she decides that she has to bring the girl to the Wizards Guild, kind of the school of wizards, and she has to learn how to be a wizard. So there's like an adventure of going to the school and then trying to convince the wizards that she can be a wizard, that even though she's a girl that she can still be a wizard. And it was just really good. It was really funny. I thought there was a bit more of a story that made sense in this one than with the other ones, because sometimes they're so there's just so much craziness within these novels that sometimes they make no sense, but I felt like this one made a little bit more sense for me anyway, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars in the end because I did quite enjoy it. And as of this morning, I have read the first 4 books of the Welcome to the Shadowhunter Academy novellas. I read them on my Kindle, and these are like the novellas that take place after the Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare, and they are kind of about the Shadowhunter Academy and some new characters learning how to be Shadowhunters, and one of the main characters in the Mortal Instruments is in this book. I've been really enjoying them so far. I've read the first 4, I said. Yes, the first 4. I'm halfway through the 5th one at the moment, and I feel like there's so much more of a story within these ones than there are in the Bane Chronicles. I feel like the Bane Chronicles are just a bit of fun and you don't really need to read them. They're just kind of, you know, a bit of whatever. Where with these ones there's a little bit more of a story, there's a little bit more of proper history within the Shadowhunter world, and then we also see some like stories about characters in the Infernal Devices, which, you know, took place a couple of 100 years before the events of the Mortal Instruments, so we learn more about them as well, and kind of things that happened after the Infernal Devices finished. We kind of get to see glimpses of them in their life after the Infernal Devices, and I loved that. I really loved that because I love the characters in the Infernal Devices. Tessa, Will, Jem, I love them all, and they are like, I actually prefer the Infernal Devices overall to the Mortal Instruments, so I was so happy to be able to see more of them in the Shadowhunter Academy. And yeah. And then I also love George Lovelace, who is a new character in the Shadowhunter Academies. I think I've completely fallen in love with him. He's my new Shadowhunter boyfriend. So yeah, I'm happy to be reading more about him because he is just such a cutie. So I've given most of them a 4 out of 5 stars. There's something about me where I don't always like to give novellas a 5 out of 5 stars, especially these kind of novellas. I'm just not sure if I don't think it's that they deserve them. I'm just not sure if I'm willing to give a 5 out of 5 stars to something that's only like 90 pages and sometimes not even. So far, so good with all of these. They've all been kind of a solid 4 stars for me, and I've really enjoyed them. The next book I read was a whole lot of work for me, and it was Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a science fiction novel. I got it off NetGalley, so thank you to them and the publishers for that. This is, I think I thought it was kind of going to be more of a YA science fiction novel, but it's like a proper adult science fiction novel, and it was very, like, right from the start, it was that kind of language and the tech stuff that you kind of associate with science fiction. And I haven't read a whole load of adult science fiction in my life. I'm only kind of starting to get into it, so I think I had a little bit more trouble with this one than other people who've read a lot more science fiction would have. But it was just such a strange book, really strange. It's basically where the planet has been destroyed and no human life is on Earth anymore, and there's kind of a big massive ship up in space of all these humans, and they're all kind of in this sleeping stage, and they can be woken up when there's a new planet for them to inhabit, and there's a certain key crew that are kind of trying to decide what planet to land on. And they come across this planet, but it's already been kind of terraformed by humans in the past, and it has been guarded by this weird satellite that has kind of a human brain inserted into its computers, and she's kind of gone crazy, and she won't let them land on this planet. And it turns out that this planet was originally made to have kind of a monkey species on it that would have been infested by nanotech to make them really, really smart. But because of certain events, the monkeys never made it to this planet. But the spiders that were already living on this planet got infected with this nanotech. And basically we have a generation of really super smart giant spiders who can like pass on their knowledge generation after generation. They can pass on memories, and they call them understandings. And then they're also able to be like scientists and alchemists, and they kind of can be priestesses. They have their own religion. It's just insane. It was absolutely crazy, and you're kind of going back and forth. The chapters go back and forth from the people up on the spaceship trying to find a planet for them to live on, to going back to the spiders. So you're actually getting a lot of chapters from the spiders' point of view, and most of the spiders, each generation of spiders, there's a spider called Portia who's kind of like the queen spider. She's kind of like the smartest spider, and it was just so weird. It was like the weirdest book I've ever read in a really long time, and there were so many times I kind of considered maybe putting the book down, because I was kind of like, I don't think I like really enjoyed the book. I felt like it was really hard work for me, because it took so long to even get through like 10% of the book that I felt anyway. It felt like it took a lot out of me. But then I was so interested in generally almost just the spiders chapters. Like, I would have been fine with just learning more about these spiders rather than the chapters on the spaceship, because the chapters on the spaceship kind of got a little bit repetitive at times, and I felt like the same things were happening again and again, and it was really hard to figure out the timeline as well, because they would kind of go to sleep for a while to kind of preserve their bodies, and you never really knew if like 100 years had passed, or just a couple of years, or 1,000 years. It was kind of really hard to figure it out, and then all these crazy things would be happening on the spaceship when this one guy woke up again and again and again, and it kind of felt like it was the same thing happening with just a new generation of people, and it was just really strange, and it kind of got a bit tiring. But I really enjoyed the spiders' point of view, and like every single generation they had kind of evolved more and become even more smart, more clever, and more developed, and were exploring more kind of experiments with all these different things and building new things, and it was just crazy. It was really, really cool. I mean, I don't think you would find a lot of books that have like space exploring spiders, and this one does have that. So I'm not sure if it's a book I would recommend people to read, but I would say that it is a very different kind of book, and it's not something I've ever read about before. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 in the end, because I just didn't enjoy it that much to be able to give it any more of that. But from what other reviews I've seen of people who have read a lot of science fiction, a lot of adult science fiction, they really, really enjoyed it, and they were giving it 5 out of 5 stars. So I think for people who really love science fiction, this could be a good one to pick up. Just for me, because I'm still not completely, my brain isn't completely okay with reading so much of this kind of hard science fiction stuff. I'm still kind of developing that kind of brain for it. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 stars, but it was really, really well written, really amazing story, and yeah. And the last book I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, which is the first book in the Grisha series, and oh my god, I finished this morning, and if anyone has seen my updates on this, you guys know that I've literally been up and down and everywhere with this book. It's about a girl called Elena who lives in this kind of fantasy world. It's a little bit like Russia, and basically there's a thing called the Shadow Fold, which is like this big patch of darkness. She is a apprentice map maker with the army, and she has to go through this big patch of darkness called the Shadow Fold, and they get attacked while they're going through it, and something happens, and it turns out that Elena is something more than she thought she was, and she has to go and learn what to do with these new kind of abilities that she realises she possesses. And yeah, So that's all I really want to say. I don't think you can really know too much about this book. I didn't really know anything going into it, what it was about, and it was a lovely surprise for me because I really, really enjoyed it in the end. The biggest thing about this, I think, is the Darkling, and I think a lot of people who haven't even read the book have probably heard mention of him. And he was really, really interesting. He reminded me a lot of the dragon in Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and literally while reading this I kept thinking about how much I want to reread Uprooted. So I think I'm going to have to go and buy my own copy of Uprooted because it was like my favourite book last year, and this and the Darkling has made me want to read it again. But I feel like the Darkling is like a mix of all these really great kind of older males love interests in other books, like obviously the dragon in Uprooted, a Karen in Trudy Canavan's Black Magician trilogy, Valak in Poison Study. I feel like he's a mix of all of these with a little bit of Voldemort as well, but we won't talk about him being love interest because he's not, but he has a little bit of Voldemort's craziness in him as well. But he's really addictive, and he's kind of a character that you don't know whether you should love or hate him, and I was all over the place with him and I just couldn't figure it out. But I really love the magic system in this book. I love just learning about it and learning how it's like developed and how they're able to work with it, what they're able to do with it, with the magic. And then I also loved Alina, who's the main character, her character development. She really developed really, really strongly in this book. She was so unsure of herself at the start of the book, and by the end of the book she's just so strong, and it was just really, really great to see her grow throughout the book, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm immediately going to read Siege and Storm, as I do have it from the library, and yeah, I need to find out what happens, so I can't wait to read on. And obviously this was a 5 out of 5 stars. So that is all the books I read this week. Please let me know what you guys are reading, what you think of the books I read. Like if you like my video, and subscribe if you like my channel. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again next time.